You're listening to Heroes in the Moment.
What's up, heroes? I'm Michael.
And I'm Nathan.
Today, we're reviewing SHAZAM! Fury of the Gods.
SHAZAM! We saw it last night.
We did. We saw it last night together.
Feels surreal.
And we saw it, SHAZAM! Fury of the Gods. And I know in the past, we've been saying this movie's going to be crap. We've been saying this movie's going to be dog water.
Yeah.
We've been hating on the ad campaign ever since we saw it. And I can honestly say, and I don't like to say this much, we were wrong about this movie.
we were definitely wrong.
We were genuinely wrong about this movie.
It was better than what we thought.
Right. Now,
know?
yes, it was not perfect.
And it's not better than the first.
And it's not better than the first, but it was still pretty decent, a lot more than I expected. Like, it's better than Black Adam.
Oh, yeah.
It was better than Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania.
I think it's better than Multiverse of Madness. I'm going to go that far, to be honest.
I think it probably is. I think I would agree with you on that.
Honestly, it's a funny family action adventure movie.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Like,
and it's what more you could ask for. And it had some original stuff, more so than I anticipated. Yeah. And I actually rather enjoyed some of the stuff. So we'll get right into it. The characters, we'll go to pros. We'll then go to cons as normal. Then we'll break down the end credit scenes. And then we're going to talk about another piece of question that we may have. And then we're going to rate it out of 10. Simple as that. So starting off with our first character being SHAZAM / Billy Batson / Zachary Levi / Asher Angel. Yeah. What did you think?
Listen, man, of these characters, obviously Zachary Levi took the cake.
He did.
Zachary Levi is the best part about this movie. Everything he said was hilarious.
It was.
He was cheesy at some points, but I thought it was hilarious, and I was laughing. We had a great theater too.
We did. We had a good theater
kids
experience.
Behind us, I laughed at everything.
Dude, they were emotional.
Everything.
It was great. And those people, please be like that in the theater because it makes the experience so much better.
I know. Talk so we don't feel guilty for talking.
It's true. That's true. We try to be quiet. Anyway, though, SHAZAM. I mean, it was great. I'm not a huge we agree. I mean, we're not as huge of a fan as Billy Batson.
Yeah, he was. We'll talk about him later for sure.
He wasn't in it a whole lot.
He probably has like 5 minutes of screen time.
Probably something like that. Yeah, it was mostly Zachary Levi in this movie compared to the first movie. Was a lot more both.
Zachary Levi kills it.
He did.
I think, as far as his performance goes, I think he's just as good in this one as in the first one. Okay. If not funnier. I think I laughed more at this one.
He was funny, and he was. I mean, the cheesiness was actually good because we have to remember, he's a kid. He's a kid playing this. He
did so well,
role, and he does a great job with that. And doing this funny stuff. I mean, some of his lines were a bit overboard cheesy, but then some of his lines were just really good, and I appreciated them. So he was really good. And the action sequences he did was great too. Yeah. And I really liked his. He actually had a really good character arc in this movie as well.
He did really. Yeah.
Wanting to be very family oriented at first because he never had that. Yeah. And then going through those experiences and losing everybody almost, and then having to come to terms with what they want versus what he wants and things like that. And then coming to his own in the family and finally accepting the family and the parents and things like that. A great character arc, great development there. And just him around the movie was really, really good. So I really appreciated SHAZAM, the character in this movie. Yeah. Next up, we got to talk about your favorite and probably a lot of people's. The GOAT, Captain Everypower. No,
Captain Everypower.
/ Freddy, played by Jack Dylan Grazer. What do you think about him?
To be honest, man, if Zachary Levi, he's A tier for this movie, then he's also A tier for this movie. Yeah. I thought obviously the focus is on those two characters,
right?
But dude, I'm just like in love with this character, and I can't necessarily tell you why. Just to see him with his with everything that he's gone through, to see him with powers is awesome. To see his relationship, right? To see his sacrificial self. He's a kid, but dude, I freaking love this.
He has such a great power of will. Like, it was kind of almost reminded me, like, okay, he'd be really worthy of a Green Lantern ring because of how much will he had. I mean, he was literally fighting against the mind control, and he was literally going up against the dragon that's supposed to like take up all your fear.
And no one else in the movie did that.
No one else did.
He walked through the dragon, and he resisted the mind control.
Did, and he was on a crutch the whole time.
I know.
Incredible. He deals with bullies, but he takes it like a champion.
I know, because he knows he got powers.
He knows he got powers, but he's also got swagger. So I appreciate that, Freddie. Swagger, he's a legend. He was funny in this movie, but he's also had a great role and a great relationships that he built with Anne, which we'll talk about here in a few minutes. But I mean, I really loved him. And actually in the comics, his superhero name is Captain Marvel Jr. So they did a play off of that because he kept calling SHAZAM Captain Everypower Jr. So they did that. And there was a Captain Marvel reference because that is his original name before Brie Larson's Captain, or Carol Danvers became Captain Marvel. Well, Carol Danvers I'm okay with. It's more Brie Larson.
It's Brie Larson.
Yeah. But anyway, so he was Captain Marvel Jr. in the comics, but it was a play on words with that, which was really cool. But yeah, he was a great addition to this movie. He added so much. He also had a great character arc as well, which they really nailed there. So I really shout out Freddie. Love that guy.
Hits home for the kids, right? Because Zachary Levi, he was prominent for most of the movie, so you're like, he was a kid from
right, and I like him better as a kid as I do an adult.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it's supposed to be that way. Same with the Astro Angel and Zachary Levi.
That's very, very, very true. All right, next piece we got to talk about are villains, being the Sisters of Atlas, otherwise known as Hespera and Calypso. We're going to wait on Anne for our next segment, played by Lucy Liu, who is ultimately the main villain of this film, and Hespera played by Helen Mirren. What'd you think?
Let me just say mid.
Okay, that's fair.
I'll also talk about it later. I thought their performances were good.
Yeah.
I definitely think they were struggling with a weak dialogue.
Yeah.
I think the cheesiness of the
dialogue
script,
was a bit
it
off.
worked for Zachary Levi and the kids.
Right.
But for these thousands of year goddesses, it just wasn't vibing.
Right.
But their performances were good.
Yeah,
and they're talented actresses.
And honestly, I can honestly say they are better than I thought they would be. I thought they were about to be like the worst villains in existence, but they weren't. They really weren't. I mean, they were different. They were new. I think I liked Hespera better personally, maybe a little bit the older one.
Yeah, I did too.
Than Calypso, and Calypso was ultimately the main villain of the movie, which was a little bit odd, especially being the Sisters of Atlas not being as big of characters in the comics.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think they did better than I anticipated, which made me like it better than I would have. And now, if I would have gone in with better expectations for the villains, I would have been disappointed.
Yeah.
But since I got in with way, way, way low expectations for them, I was pleased.
Just in general,
So it was a lot better. The CGI and the powers were dope.
Powers were cool,
I must say, and were like super crazy.
Yeah.
But
element powers, and then
elements, and then the power of chaos, which was
chaos.
the manipulation, control people's minds and stuff like that.
And then
so
Axis, which I still don't know what that means.
Well, I'll explain it in a minute when we get to her.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, they were definitely better than I anticipated. But I agree, they were still had some cheesy lines, and then also weren't as compelling as well. I mean, the whole time you just wanted them to be like dead. But I mean, they didn't have a good character arc.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about their character arcs too.
We will. All right, next up, we got to talk about now this Sister of Atlas. I did like, and I think she is not as high as like Shazam and Freddy, but I think she's the third best part.
My guy's out here simping.
Okay, that may be a little bit, but Anne, played by Rachel Zegler, I was simping a little bit. Watched Rachel Zegler the whole time. She's absolutely amazing.
Just like eyes
beautiful,
glued to the screen.
And I can't wait to see her in Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds.
You're like,
November.
I'm trying to be like Freddy.
Dude, I'm trying to be like Freddy full shizzle, man. I love Anne. Anyway, I really did actually genuinely, all that jokes aside, I did actually enjoy Anne's character in this movie. I think she was the third best part. Rachel Zegler did great in her role. She was a member of the Sisters of Atlas, but she did not agree with their ways. She believed in peace and harmony and love and that kind of thing, which is kind of a stereotypical character. I mean, you always have in some situations like, that character who's a part of this family or part of this group that, wants to be accepted by them, but at the same time doesn't agree with their methods. So she was that character for this movie, and I still don't really know why she was just there in the high school as like a student randomly.
I don't know either. We should probably talk. Why was she in the high school when she was?
I know she was trying to find out like who the
she
Shazams
was
were,
sent, right, to see who the kids were.
Right. So,
but listen, man, that was a huge reveal for me because I had forgotten the trailer, so I didn't even know she had powers. And I was like, I think she's bad.
But
I was like, what?
That's very
for
true.
real.
So the Axis powers, that means that she has the power of Axis. That means she can change the X and Y dimensions on like the planet and things like that, so she can change buildings and move things around and manipulate stuff like that. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool power.
Yeah,
it was going all Doctor Strangey, very much Doctor Strangey.
And I definitely did like the relationship story, obviously, with her and Freddie.
I did too. I think that was a highlight.
Written well.
I agree.
Yeah, and it was obviously, it's cheesy. It's a teenage romance.
Right.
Well, she's not a teenager. She's like thousands of years.
That's
that boy is a minor.
It's true.
That boy is a minor. She's like 6,000. I don't know how old she is.
I know he's going to turn 18 in like 2 months, but still.
That's still.
Gotta wait 2 months.
Bro.
Hold
your horses.
Hold up, man. Hold
up now.
But yeah, I mean, Anne was great, or was it Anthea?
It was Anna. I don't know. I can't tell you.
But Anne, but she was great. And I really liked how Rachel Zegler portrayed her in this movie.
Yeah.
All right, next up, we got to talk about the Shazam family in general, and some of the characters being, we had Mary, we had Eugene, we had Pedro, we had Darla, who were part of the Shazam family. So let's start with Mary. What did you think of Mary?
Who's Mary?
Mary was the oldest one, the girl. And she's the most prominent one in the comics besides, because most of the rest of them aren't as in it, because she's Mary Marvel in the comics is her name. So, but yeah, what do you think of Mary?
Was the same actor for both stages? Because she looked
very similar, but she was not.
Really? I thought it was. Listen, man, I found her story to be nice, right? Mm-hmm. Because the others are younger and they're kind of struggling with what they want to do.
And she's like college age,
but she's college age. You know, she said she's working a job or something like that. So she's doing a good job at balancing her responsibilities, whereas the other kids haven't figured that out yet. But besides that, I just don't feel like she's, like a big prominent feature, No,
I mean, she was there. I mean, she was kind of like, Shazam or Billy went to her for help a lot of times because she was the wisest. She's the oldest and stuff, even though he's supposed to have
the parents. Or...
Yeah, I mean, he was supposed to have the wiseness of Solomon. So
Solomon, the Solo Man, Sauron.
I was like Lord of the Rings.
I was like, what? Lord's going crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. But anyway, she was pretty good. I think she was my favorite underneath Billy and Jack or Freddie.
And Freddie.
I think it goes Mary after that personally. Then we have Eugene, who's the really smart guy. Most of his plot was figuring out what the doors do. What did you think of Eugene?
Listen, man, I like Eugene. I will say this. These kids were far better than the adult actors. Like I would die on that hill. I would much rather see them as kids, than just suited up.
I think I agree.
I just didn't feel a connection.
I think I agree as well. Yeah,
but when they were kids, there's a clear difference between them and Zachary Levi. Yeah. Eugene was a freaking goat. Just seeing him, just chilling in the beginning. He's a little nerd, right? Just playing video games, figuring out what the doors is. Like he had a cool plot, and I really liked him as a character.
I did too. And I mean, the Shazam family in general. I mean, they did have a big plot in this movie and had a lot to do with it, but I still liked the way that they did them more than I thought. I mean, there's still some cons, and I'll talk about that later, but I think it was better than what I anticipated it being, because I didn't like the fact that they made them all Shazam family right off the bat.
I know,
but I appreciated it more in how they did it in this movie. All right, next up we got to talk about Pedro. What'd you think?
Listen, I feel like Pedro's kind of bland in this movie. Yeah. The kid really doesn't say too much. And his adult self just doesn't do anything.
No, I don't think he has any lines as an adult self.
I don't think he does.
No, he does. He has one. He's like, I'm not good at dodgeball, and that was like,
I'm not good.
He's barely in it there. I do agree. I like him better as the kid.
Of all the kids, I think I found him the least
interesting.
Interesting. To be honest.
Okay, that's fair enough. I can understand that. I mean, he had some funny lines and funny parts in the movie, but
I'm not good at dodgeball. My brother's not funny, man.
I know. Yeah, that's fair. All right, next up we got to talk about the youngest and probably the wittiest, Darla. What'd you think?
She's actually one of my favorites.
Really?
To be honest,
I didn't really like her that much.
Really?
I did not.
I love Darla. I wasn't a huge fan of the adult actor, but I thought, she's just cute. She just cares for bro, she stole that cat, though. I still can't get over that.
She put it back. She did take it back.
She'd be taking them.
But she took that cat. That was funny.
But yeah, I thought it was cool. They got a whole good dynamic, and diverse dynamic too. But Darla was cute. She kind of reminded me of, what's her face from Stranger Things? Lucas's little sister.
Oh, Erica.
That kind of role, little sassy, little cute. Little girl. But I like Darla. I thought she was good.
I liked her, but the whole rainbow plot, which I'll talk about in a little bit, I did not like.
I wasn't feeling it, but I did like how the adult actor acted just like her.
Yeah.
I thought it was very cool, just
all
very
right.
giddy.
Yeah, very true. Now on to the parents. Not a lot to say about the parents, but the parents, I love the parents.
Listen, I thought they did great in this movie.
I thought they were great.
I wish they had more screen time, to be honest with you.
I would agree.
I really
Especially the dad.
The dad is the goat.
He's legendary, man.
He's funny, dude.
He was. He was like, what, the van was the battle mobile or something like that?
Yeah, and then he's driving to battle.
He's running over Centaurs. Hype.
I don't know how many more Minotaurs I can hit with this thing.
That was great.
Yeah.
And then I also like the storyline between the mom and Billy, and how at first he would just call her by her name instead of mom, and then at the end, he finally came to terms with her being his mom.
Yeah,
I like that.
That was beautiful.
That was a good.
He's like, I know I'm aging out, and she's like, no, Billy,
you always have a home with us. I was like, that was really good dialogue, and I enjoyed that. All right, now we got to talk about the legend, the myth, the best character of this movie, I would say.
Yeah.
Steve.
Shout
out Steve. I love Steve.
I need a Steve in my life.
I do need a Steve in my life to write my papers for me, to do everything that I need to do that I probably should be doing. Steve was a legend. The pen that wrote everything. It was funny. I love Steve. That edition was very unique and different, but I loved it.
I thought it was funny, and I thought they played really well into it. I mean, it's a kid delivering messages. Yeah. When a kid texts you, there's gonna be typos. There's gonna be grammatical errors.
Let's go get a Gatorade.
Let's go get a Gatorade. What is a Gatorade?
Is it a weapon?
But see, like, that's something cheesy, but it was so funny. Like, they're gonna screw up the message because Steve just writes whatever's being said.
That's fact.
I mean, even if me and you did it, we would still screw it up.
Oh yeah,
somewhere.
for sure.
Hilarious. I love that.
That was fun. Love
part.
Steve. All right, next up we got to talk about Mr. Drip, the Wizard.
Mr. Drip.
What do you think about him?
Honestly, man, I kind of wasn't vibing with him.
Okay.
I feel like he really just didn't have a place or a role in this movie.
Okay.
Like, freaking Granger's character is just toasting him the entire movie. Yeah. Like, you got no powers, you don't know nothing. Why are you here? Like, essentially, all he does is pull that thing out of his, underneath his fingernail, and
that was brutal.
Like what does he do in the movie?
That's true. Like, what is his
kind of gets
purpose?
captured.
He doesn't really have any addition to the movie,
and he's not really a mentor character towards.
I guess the only reason was
Freddy,
to answer
know
some of those unanswered questions from the first movie and kind of reestablish some of the things, give confidence, stability. In the
I think it's weird they brought him back.
Okay.
But to be honest, I really feel like that character was forced. I think he did a good job with him, but
now one scene that was absolutely hilarious that I thought was so flippin' funny is when Billy was dreaming and he was on a date with Wonder Woman, and he turns around and it's the Wizard.
It's a wizard on Wonder Woman's body.
Dude, that was hilarious.
Dude, that made me. It's like, am I supposed to be attracted to this? It's Wonder Woman's body, and you're like, okay. And then you see the wizard's face. You're like, holy crap, that's weird, yo.
That was so funny.
It's weird,
man. I was laughing so much for that scene, dude.
Everybody was dying.
I thought that was so. I couldn't even focus on what he was saying because I was just took off guard so much.
So weird.
Because I was like thinking, are we gonna see Gal Gadot right here? But then it ends up being the Wizard. I'm like, I was dying.
I thought it was real too.
Oh yeah,
it ends up being a dream.
It was a dream.
But that part was crazy.
It was crazy. But yeah, I can understand what you're saying. He didn't really add much to the movie except for warning them and then kind of giving him confidence there at the end. But I can see what you mean. But he does come back all dripped up and grabs his step back.
All dripped up.
He was.
Man, he should have stayed dead. Like they never explained. I don't think how he went from ashes
going to
being in the
they did not
prison.
So maybe he just did that as a magic ploy to get out of there, but he thought he was dead, something like that.
I have no idea. I couldn't tell you.
All right, next up, the most surprising and a really cool addition to this movie that I was really not expecting, being Wonder Woman, actually Gal Gadot actually being in this movie there at the end. What did you think about that?
It was hype, dude. I was not expecting it.
I was glad to see her again because we may never see her again in that role. I don't know unless she does have a cameo in The Flash somehow, some way. But I really liked seeing her back. I mean, it gave me kind of hope because I really do like Gal Gadot's version of Wonder Woman, and I would like James Gunn to use her if possible. So I really liked it, and of course, she was the sole reason of bringing Shazam back to life in the first place. That was pretty cool.
Spoiler warning.
Yeah, spoilers.
I was kind of wishing he would stay dead because that would have been brutal. But there's no more guys left. She's like, just one. Just like that.
I was like, whoa!
And then obviously Billy's infatuation with her is hilarious.
It was funny. Yeah, he's like, hey,
he's like, I turned 18
just in like a month or whatever, and he's like, and she's like, okay, just keep
stick
the world.
Stick to saving the world. I'd be like, bro, I'm not sticking to saving the world. No,
I'm sticking to trying to get you.
Yeah, that's right. I'm trying to shoot my shot.
And he still was turning at me in credit scene too. We'll talk about it in a few minutes. But anyway, so Wonder Woman, great addition to this movie. Definitely well deserved and being there. So I really like seeing her there. All right, now to make the transition over to our pros. We got to talk about our pros today. And you want to start us off today?
Sure. My first pro is obviously Zachary Levi, his acting and just his lines, man.
Okay.
His comedic timing was great. It was hilarious. It wasn't cheesy at all, and I laughed a lot. So
that's fire. That's fire. My first one is the comedy of this movie, man.
Yeah.
Really, genuine. The comedy was not forced. I mean, some of it was there, and it wasn't that funny, but we didn't laugh at those spots. Yeah. But when it was actually legitimately funny and the comedy was great, it was really a really high point of this movie. It's
it really
Shazam.
was.
It's supposed to be comedic.
It gave me
right?
a kind of Deadpool vibe.
It did.
Honestly,
it did
you know what I'm saying?
Like a lighthearted family version of Deadpool.
Really.
And I really, really enjoyed the comedy.
I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna go with Billy's story, in the sense that, like you mentioned before, he starts with he doesn't really have a family. He's grappling with he's about to age out of the foster care system.
Right.
He doesn't know how to lead well. Right. He's 17 years old, and seeing that progression through the movie where he learns how to lead, he finds his family, then he ends up sacrificing himself for them.
Right.
That character arc in the movie was absolutely great.
It was really
good. Because you see Zachary Levi be a bumbling buffoon, and then you see a bumbling buffoon who sacrifices himself.
100%.
So, yeah, I love that story.
And he went more serious there, and it was a really good story. I agree. Next up, I have the character arc between Freddie and Anne. I really enjoyed them. I really enjoyed not just because of Anne, but I really enjoyed seeing the relationship blossom and how it went, and him protecting her, and him and her trying to protect him as well, and just seeing that win. I mean, I enjoyed Freddie in his role and what he did, but Anne as well, and just seeing their character arc together was really good.
Staying on the Freddy train, I just have his character. I thought a lot of times when these studios try to write characters with certain disabilities or things of that nature, it just comes across as, I don't know, they're just trying to drag pity out of you. Whereas, you know, Freddy is a fighter, and he doesn't let, you know, whatever he's dealing with define who he is.
That's
so
exactly right.
His story was inspirational. It was inspiring. He really stole the show for me. Like, every scene he was in, I was like, I love that guy. I want to see him succeed so bad. And I was just rooting so hard for his relationship.
Absolutely.
But listen, man, Jack Dylan Grazer, I really do think had the second best performance after Zachary Levi. I thought he killed it. And he has a big, bright future ahead of him.
I agree 100%. All right, next up, actually a surprising pro for me because I didn't expect it, being the CGI. The CGI of this movie was actually really, really good.
Especially in the third act.
Yeah, the third act with all the dragons and all the different mythical creatures and things like that. And even the scenes of the buildings like moving around and stuff was really good CGI. Because, I mean, I guess I'm thinking of like Marvel and some of the other stuff. And
Doctor Strange.
And Doctor Strange. But the CGI on this movie was very solid, so I have it as pro.
All right. This is my last pro. And it's the inclusion of the family. I know going to the movie, we're talking about, you know, it's too quick. It's going to take attention away from Zachary Levi's character. I don't feel like it did. I really love seeing the parents. I love seeing the kids a lot. I wasn't a huge fan of the whole super family and the actors. I didn't think it was all that great. But I love seeing him with the kids. I love seeing everybody with the parents, and I thought they did a good job of giving everyone their own separate time, even though obviously, you know, it's very cut short because of you know, the movie. But I thought they did a good job really with the writing to include everybody.
Yeah, so I agree. So for I'm gonna do kind of three themes or three pros in one. Being first off is, again, just a reiteration of Shazam. I loved him in this movie, and I think he was great in his role. And what they did with his character arc was beautiful, and the character development of those characters was really great. And then the action sequences were actually really, really good and well done there.
Yeah, they
Plus
were.
The darker themes. You know, this comes across as a family movie, but has several darker themes. I mean, you have a guy who's commanded to commit suicide.
I really didn't think they were going to show that.
I didn't either.
And
then you had, you know, pulling the fingernail out of the, you know, the thing out of the fingernail, and stuff like darker themes that I enjoyed that brought life to this movie in more ways than one. So I really enjoyed those things. That's it for my pros.
Okay. Listen, man, I'd agree on all those.
All right. Starting off with my cons, I'll start off with these. I'll say the cheesiness of the villains, plus some of the dialogue being a little bit too cheesy at times with the Shazam family. I just feel like it kind of overshadows a lot of stuff. I mean, some of the cheesiness, like with Zachary Levi's dialogue, was really, really good and funny, and some of the family was better. And it's supposed to be cheesy.
He's a kid.
Like that. Exactly.
You know, he's trying to make jokes.
But then some of the other characters, when you have like the wizard saying like a stupid line, or when you have like the Daughters of Atlas saying a stupid line, you know, it just kind of, it's like, I don't
it
like
falls
that
flat and it doesn't make sense.
I agree. So that's my first con.
Yeah, listen, man, Michael, that was my first and biggest con that I had too. Was just the cheesiness, especially of the villain's dialogue. Like I said, the Daughters of Atlas, it doesn't fit their character. I'm not saying that they didn't deliver it well, but they had really weak just material they were working with. And I feel like they should have done a complete 180 and made them the opposite, you know, of Shazam and just straight serious.
I agree.
I'm gonna go with I'm going to go with an uninteresting villain story.
Okay.
So the best villains we see have the best stories. Stories where even, you know, if they're murdering people, you can still see their backstory or see their motives and say, okay, I can understand that, you know. Would I do something, in that same position? This whole movie, man, first of all, the writing was terrible because they slowly spread out their story, but no one cared. Like, if you ask me right now, what their story was, I couldn't tell you. I know
Yeah.
that some guy stole from them and they're mad.
Right.
So they're just kind of just like wiping out people.
Yeah, I understand.
Like, I didn't feel bad for them at all.
Okay.
I didn't feel attached to the character. I mean, obviously, Rachel Zegler is great, but you didn't feel attached to these characters because of their story,
Yeah.
dude. You know,
Okay.
I felt like they were just villains to be there. And I feel like the story that was written for them was especially weak.
Okay,
So
I agree. I mean, specifically, another con of mine is Lucy Liu and her character. I liked Helen Mirren's character a little bit better, Hespera, as I did Calypso. I just think it was, her then killing Hespera and all that stuff. Like I was just like, and hers villain was not that compelling. And I agree with the plot. I mean, the plot was, they had the Tree of Life stolen from them. Their whole world was destroyed, and they want it back. And I understand where they're coming from.
Man of Steel. That the
Similar.
world destroyed, so they're trying to make a new world.
Pretty
or
much,
something.
pretty much just like that. And they each had different philosophies in doing so, which I liked that part. Each of the three of them having different perspectives, and I didn't think that Hespera would. I thought she would more relate with Calypso than otherwise not agreeing with what she was doing. But that's con. And then also, I honestly think the plot of this movie. It wasn't bad, but I think it was too big for a Shazam level movie.
No, I agree. Yeah, they tried
because,
stuff too much in.
Right, they had too much. I mean, it was good. It was entertaining. I liked it. The plot was good, but it was just it didn't seem like a Shazam movie. I feel like where was the Justice League? Where was Wonder Woman before? She comes in later, but where was she? Why didn't she just come and help them in their situation in Philadelphia, or the other Justice League, or the Justice Society, or whoever out there? I feel like that's just a really major con for me. Is just I feel like a lot of superhero movies that lately have been like the world's got to end in order to have a plot, and
those are the worst kind.
Right. So
we've seen it so many times.
I mean, the plot was good, but I would rather seen something more interesting.
I know. I wish they would have had Freddy in as a hostage longer, because that way the stakes would have been within the family.
Okay.
Like it's a kid's life at stake.
Right. Right.
Some kid that you love.
Right.
I agree. This is my final con that I could think of. But I had just Asher Angel as Billy. Perhaps it's just that Grazer, his acting stole all the kid scenes.
Yeah.
But I found Billy just to be just kind of annoying and a bland character.
Okay.
So I was like, please change back into Shazam. So
I understand.
He's it.
Okay, I understand that. All right, my final pro is actually the Shazam family. I enjoyed certain aspects, but I still think it was too soon them to be added.
Yeah.
But I also think some of the adult actors portrayed the younger kids well and how they would act, but then some of them didn't as much. I think Mary Marvel did the best. Mary did good.
Mary did
her fit, and then Darla I feel like fit.
did
But I
well.
feel like the rest, Pedro
didn't,
and Eugene,
different.
and honestly, Shazam to an extent, I feel like did not fit with Asher Angel, like Billy Batson's character.
Yeah, 'cause
like when he's Billy, he's kind of a serious kind of kid.
Yeah, he's kind
more
of serious, and he seems kind of insecure.
Right.
Whereas I guess, well, Freddy is just like you take his confidence and cockiness and you multiply it times 2.
Right.
But that makes sense because
Right,
he's
it did.
empowered by
It
the
did.
person he
but
becomes.
some of the other ones I feel like just didn't fit with the roles as much. Like I feel like Zachary Levi's character was a lot more like, he was like an immature, like funny, cheesy kind of kid. And then when you look at Billy Batson, he's more serious. He's more toned down than
you don't really
before.
see him cracking
Right.
jokes. Like
And
they
then-
don't act anything like
and
it
then
at
the
all.
same goes for like Eugene and Pedro. Theirs wasn't as good either, in my opinion.
Like I said, but like Darla's the exact same. So is Mary.
Yeah. So that's my last con there.
I agree.
All right, next up, we got to talk about our end credit scenes. The first one was really cool, and I was not expecting.
Yeah.
We see members of Team Peacemaker being Diebeard and Hargreaves, right?
Yeah.
They're back. I was like completely
Diebeard is
unexpected.
the
He
goat.
had a fresh shave cut.
know.
I was like,
He's
yes.
so funny, dude.
Love that guy. And they're like, we got to recruit this guy for Waller. He mentioned him. He's this like kind of immature though. So we got.
Yeah,
he goes
but,
up
like,
to
his
him.
power is crazy.
And he goes up to him, and they're like, "We want to recruit you." And he's like shooting bottles with his lightning.
Yeah,
He's like-
shooting bottles with
He's like to the Justice, and he's like, "Yes!" And he's like, "Is Wonder Woman on that team?" He's like,
Wonder Woman's on that
Wonder Woman's
team.
there,
And
right?
they're like,
And Diebeard's like, "What's your session with Wonder Woman?"
What is your obsession? The way he says it is so
It was
like
so funny, man.
What
And
is
he's
your
like,
obsession?
no,
with
the
woman?
Justice Society.
The Justice
And then actually
Society.
they had some cool Easter eggs here. He's like, Justice. I feel like there's so many better like names you can
He's
do.
like, why would you use justice?
I know, like there's already a Justice League. Why would you need a Justice Society? Which is a question we all have.
I know.
in our mind.
I do be asking that
old
too.
Comics, comics, but then he was like the Authority Society, which is teasing the Authority movie coming into the DCU.
Yeah.
And he's like the Avengers Society. Now that goes hard.
Yeah. The Avengers Society.
That was kind of hype. But anyway, I actually was confused by this end credit scene, honestly, because of the use of James Gunn's wife and the use of these characters that are James Gunn's characters
from the
Suicide
DC
Squad,
EU.
Peacemaker, right? From this, does this mean, and the inclusion of this, you'd think if they were getting ready to like reboot the universe, they wouldn't even had end credit scenes, but they did. So my question is, and Peter Safran produced this movie as well. Yeah. So my question is this going to be canon, and is this going to be involved in the future of the DCU?
I mean, if this canon, then Gal Gadot is canon.
Right.
You know, they could always, you know, they mentioned the Justice Society. They could just always, you know, bring in new characters for that.
Absolutely.
You know, that's not saying, you know, Dwayne The Rock Johnson and, you know, Brosnan Pearson, you know, Noah Centineo, and all those characters. Right. You know, we don't know about them. But that means Gal Gadot is canon if it is. So
it would.
It's possible. It's definitely possible.
I mean, I know he said the Flash movie will change everything. So I think with the Flash movie that they'll use it as a reboot, but maybe they'll bring in some of the characters in the multiverse or do some way. Maybe the other characters will be variants now. Somehow, some way do this to answer these unanswered questions we have, but I'm not really sure what goes on with that. All right, the second end credit scene was actually a continuation of the first end credit scene from the first Shazam, which I thought originally was just going to be a plot line that they just got rid of. And that being, we see Dr. Shiva still in prison from his effects in the first Shazam movie, and then he's greeted by the worm who visited him in the first movie. So I'm like, what is this building to?
I know. Who first of all, who is this caterpillar? Who controls the caterpillar?
Who's this caterpillar?
Like, what's the villain's name? Do we know the villain's name?
Yeah, well, I'm trying to remember what it was.
Is he like a major Shazam villain?
He's a pretty big Shazam villain.
Because, I don't know. I feel like people ain't vibing with him. Like, if you're gonna give a man a trilogy, build up to Black Adam.
I agree.
You know?
I mean, Black Adam should have been, and I know Rock didn't want to be in it or whatever the controversy is.
He's like, you're not as big as I am.
That's
know, like probably he's like, I want Mr. Henry Cavill.
Mastermind is the character. Mastermind. And he's actually pretty big in Shazam comics and stuff like that. And I think he would have been probably been a better villain for Shazam 2 as to the Daughters of Atlas.
I had never even heard of them. Like I said, they were just kind of sucky.
Yeah, so I don't know. It was just kind of weird, and then bringing him back, and then he's probably never going to show up again. He travels through time. He's like, I move slowly, and I'm like, okay.
Like, I moved through the multiverse to get to you. By the time he's already dead in the cell.
So I mean, you know,
I thought it was a dumb scene.
It was. I agree. It was just kind of unnecessary. Dumb. So that's me. All right. Now it's time for maybe what some of you have been waiting for. What would we rate this movie, Shazam! Fury of the Gods, out of 10? I'm going to let you go first because I went first last time.
I can't remember what I rated the first Shazam. Looking back on it, I'd probably give it, you know, either a 7.5 or a 7.
Yeah.
For this one, I'm gonna go 6.5.
Okay.
So it's a side step down. It's not a bad movie. It's not a great movie. Yeah. Like I said, it's a fun, funny action movie. So I'm gonna sell on 6.5.
Okay. I was also between a 6.5 and 7. I couldn't go above 7 because I think I would give this a first Shazam movie like a 7.5.
Yeah.
So I think I would give this one a 7. I'm gonna go with a 7. I'm gonna go with higher. Of course, recency bias could contribute, but at the same time, I anticipate this movie being like a 3 out of 10.
Me too.
So it being this much,
Morbius.
Yeah, I know, and it being this much better is really crazy. Anyway, and I do think 7 fits it. You know, it's about average. I mean, it's definitely not bad, and was actually really entertaining to watch. So I'm gonna go to 7 out of 10.
All right, guys, if you enjoyed this episode, let us know by giving us a review and a download. Our podcast, Here's in the Moment, is available on all major podcast platforms, so check it out. Speaking of checking it out, we just dropped our Mando episode, 19? Episode 19 review. So go ahead and check that out. And we also got our news coming up later. So stay up to date with all that. Speaking of staying up to date, check out the socials. We have an Instagram at Here's in the Moment and a TikTok at Here's in the Moment with an extra T.
And we just want to thank y'all for listening. And as always, we love you 3000.